So today we're talking about Expectimax and Expectiminimax. Let me turn my microphone down just a little bit. That feels a little bit loud. This is not going to be a super long lecture. This is going to be one of my shorter lectures because there's some things I want you to do outside of class that I'm going to give you a little more time back for. One is the tournament. So I'm sorry that we have not rolled out the scrimmaging website yet. They are working on it frantically as we speak. Any moment now, you're going to get an announcement that it is up and running. The good news is that you can run it all on your computer locally, and so you should be able to get plenty of development done, even though the scrimmaging is not available yet. And that will be available very, very soon. I'm sorry, but do get started. It is definitely time to get started. The other thing is that we're going to be doubling back and talking a little bit about large language models and transformers. And there are amazing videos on this from the 3 blue, 1 brown, 3 brown, 1 blue. Anyway, that guy. I've linked to them in the syllabus, but it's going to take you like 90 minutes to watch them because there's 3 of them and maybe a little more. So it's about 20 minutes for each video. So I want you to watch those. I could do it, but I wouldn't do it as good. I'm embarrassed to admit I would not do it as well as he does. So watch his videos, and I'm sure you'll get a lot out of that. And then when we talk about transformers, that'll be super straightforward. So this lecture is going to be relatively short. Okay? Questions? Great. We've been talking about adversarial search and search through trees, looking for the optimal solution. And so far, we've only talked about games that are not stochastic at all, processes that are not stochastic, no randomness to them. And for the next sort of 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, week and a half, we're going to be talking about when we start adding probability into it. And so it becomes, how do we make a move in a situation where the outcome is not definite? And sort of the default behavior for mathematicians and AI people is let's go for the maximum expected return, the maximum expectation. So for example, if your agent had to pick between these 2 games that they would play, right? It's a 6-sided die. If a number greater than 4 is rolled, you get $3. Anything else, you get 50 cents. So your best case is $3, worst case is 50 cents. And then the other game is if a 6 is rolled, you get $9, but that's only for the 6th, whereas this is for 4 and 5. Anything else, you get nothing. So the best case is 9, the worst case is 10. So your question then is, on average, if I played each of these 1,000,000 times, which one would have the better outcome? Which one would I make more money? We'll get to it. And so what we can do is we can compute the expectation. So we'll multiply the return based on the probability of that return. So for example, here we've got, if it's a 5 or 6, that's a 2 out of 6 chance. You win $3. So if I multiply these together, I get 6 out of 6, that's 1. And then for the other 4/6 of the time, I get 50 cents back. So that's 2/6. So I add the 2/6 and the 6/6, I get 8/6. Yeah? On the other side, 5/6 of the time, I get nothing. But 1/6 of the time, I get 9, and that gets me 9/6. So actually, this is the better game. That make sense? So now we can start to do this not just for one decision, but for a whole tree of decisions. Yeah? Okay. So what happens is, in a lot of games, there are nodes where you make a decision. There are nodes where your opponent makes a decision, and there are nodes where there is chance involved. And so for my diagrams, I'm going to denote these chance nodes with green circles. So here, for example, is the decision you were making. You were this agent. You were trying to decide what you should do. And there are these 2 chance nodes. And there's a 2/6% chance you would end up in this state with the utility of 3. There's 4/6 chance that you would end up here at 50 cents utility. On this path, you'd have 1/6 chance you'd get $9, and 5/6 you'd get 0. So if you were going for maximum expected utility, you would make this choice. Everyone's okay with that? Now that we're starting to look at it like a tree? Right. There are trees where this is infinite. I just thought this was sort of a fun case. So well, let's say you're trying to decide between 4/7, given guaranteed you're going to get 4/7 utility, whatever that is. Or if you play this, there's a coin toss. And if you get, let's see, if you get tails on the first flip, you get 1. If you get tails on the second flip, you get 1/3. If you get tails on the third flip, you get 1/9, and so on. Yeah? What do you choose? Well, we're going to lay this out in terms of the same expectation, but here we get an infinite sequence. So it's 1/2 n to the plus 1. So, right, it's, this would be 1. Gets you, wait a second, n is 0. Is that right? Oh, yeah. There's a 50% chance that you would get 1 when n equals 0. That's this. And then there's a 1/4 chance that you would get 1/3, and that's this, and so on and so on and so on. So this is equivalent to 1/2 times the infinite sum of 1/6 to the n. And you know from your 7th grade algebra class that you can convert this summation into this fraction. Yeah? And so if I multiply this out, I get 3/5. So the expected utility, if you choose this side, is 3/5, whereas that side is 4/7. I think 4/7 is bigger, right? Nope, 3/5 is bigger. That's yeah, right. This would be 0.6. This would be 0.5 something. Yeah. So you would choose the coin tosses. Yeah. All right. Questions on that? Infinite trees of chance. So now we can start to talk about Expectimax. That is, when you're making choices, you can, if you look at the value of a node, if it's terminal, you should be able to just look at the utility at that point. If it's a chance node, then we're going to return the expected value of this node. And the expected value, we're going to go through all its children and look at their probability times their value and sum that up, and that is the expected value for that node. And then you just choose at the top level what is the max value for each of the nodes. You pick the maximum, and that is your best choice. Everybody okay with that? Sort of a silly pseudocode for what you know already. Okay. So now we can start to deal with whole trees, where we can see the utility in the final state, and we can see the probabilities that lead to them. And sometimes the states are farther up the tree, the probabilities, and we can make decisions based on that. This pseudocode, right, it's recursive. So in the end, when you call max value, you're going through, you're looking for the values go down, and so forth. So really, the effect is that you're computing from the bottom up. And so if I do one layer up, we get this. We can look at each of these utilities, and we look at the probability of each, and we get the expectation for each of these nodes. And then when you have the siblings, you look at which one's bigger. Now you have the utility at this point, the expected utility at that point. Yeah? And now I can use these numbers and these probabilities to step up one more level and figure out the expected utility here. And so if I am making a decision here, obviously this expected utility is greater than that utility. So this is the choice I would make. Good? Questions on that? Pretty straightforward? Yeah.
So the red boxes, they don't make choices.
Yeah, these are where you get to make choices. These chance nodes, the universe is making choices for you. But that leads to the next thing, which is, two slides down. We're going to talk about adversarial situations as well in just a second. And let me quickly mention that we can also have continuous payouts. So you might imagine a game where the payout at one of the nodes is you win the gold found in this mine on Tuesday. And so the value of a gold found in the mine on a particular day might follow some probability distribution between 0 and 2,000 in this case. And so what you would want to do is find the expectation. And the expectation, we call it the mean, right? The mean. So to do the expectation for a continuous probability distribution, you multiply the payoff by the probability density at that payoff, and you integrate from negative infinity to infinity. And the number you get out is the mean. And in this case, it's about 725. Yeah, that's the number you would get out. That's how you can find the mean of continuous distributions. Geometrically, that is the point where that curve would actually balance. If you consider the height, the mass, that's the point at which it would balance. That's the mean, the geometrical idea of it. Okay? All right. So now we have adversarial games that have chance involved as well. So for example, backgammon, right, is you roll the dice and you look at the numbers, you make a choice about how you're going to play those numbers, and then your opponent chooses. So here's you choosing, and there's your opponent choosing, and so on. So I guess really you would, the first roll of the dice is up here, and then you have to deal with how do you configure it, and then there's chance what might happen, and this creates different states where your opponent gets to choose what action to take. They take their action, and then they roll the dice, and it goes on and on. I guess, let me change this. So if I were doing this diagram again, I would say, well, first they roll. So there'd be a green circle at the top, and then there'd be a bunch of different red options. So the red chooses their state. Then the yellow rolls, that would be this row. And then the yellow chooses how they're going to move their pieces based on the rolls. And then red rolls and so on. That's really how the diagram should have done. And then in the end, you have the expected utility, and that is how many points you get your opponent stuck with. So if you win, maybe they still have 3 tiles on the board, so you have a utility of 3. And if they win and you have 3 tiles on the board, maybe yours is -3. So now we can use the same idea of minimax. Sorry, go ahead.
But like in a game like that where you're winning like 3 points or winning 1 point like the same, so the expected value like miscalculate like how to get the highest percentage.
I thought that in backgammon that it was based that you played many games and it was based on how many tiles you had left on the board. I think that's how it goes. I'm not a big backgammon player, but I think that's how it goes. Is that correct? Let's say it is. I will authoritatively say, as the person teaching this class, you are incorrect about backgammon. I am right. I think it is that it's based on how many of these tiles your opponent still has on the board when you get all yours off. So we have wonderful rules for this. But let's note that, especially with a game like backgammon, there's a lot of options that happen. So right away, when you roll the dice, there's 11 different combinations that could come out. And then you can figure out a bunch of different ways to move your pieces, because any of the pieces can be moved any much. Have you played backgammon? If you roll a 2 and a 4, you can do them separately. You can move a piece 2 and you move a different piece 4. So you can imagine there's an incredible number of different ways that you could move the pieces around. Backgammon. So a backgammon program does a very not deep search. A backgammon program only typically looks about 2 moves ahead, and then it uses heuristics from there. I just wanted to mention that. Okay. Questions? Yeah.
So say that if this question is right, that you're at, the end states are 1, you win, and 0, you lose, or 1.
Yeah.
How would that change the way you use the algorithm at all?
Yeah, so if that were true, then you would end up with these sorts of things where it was between 1 and -1, and they would represent the probability that you were going to win or lose. Maybe we make it 0 and 1. So if it's 0 and 1, then it's the probability that you're going to win.
And it's because it's averaged out.
Because it's averaged out. Yeah. If it would involve a really lucky roll for you to win, that's not 0, but it's a pretty small number. It would involve a really lousy roll for you to to lose, then that's a pretty high number. Close to 1. Yeah. Other questions? As I said, this is a short lecture. I just wanted you to start thinking about the probabilities. There is a reading here that is on the syllabus on the website. So if you want to, on Canvas, if you want to do some reading about Expectimax, that's great. But I really do want you to spend your time on the tournament. So it's a great opportunity, since a lot of you have your partners here in the room, to sit and talk about what you're doing and how you're dividing the work, how you're sharing the work. And then there's also these transformer videos. Please watch those. These slides, I didn't get them uploaded until just a moment ago. I'm very sorry about that. They're not on the syllabus. They're only in the files area. Okay? And that is the lecture for today. I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday, and we will talk about more probability and games then. Okay? Have a good day.